Hello traders, Rich here and welcome to a new episode on how to analyze any charts from scratch without using any indicators, just by applying basic price action concepts and market structure 101. So let's get started, and as usual, cheers. There we have episode number 39, which is a crypto instrument this time, TCS. If you aren't familiar with this series, don't worry. I'll make sure to attach the entire playlist, which includes all the videos by order, in the description below. And I also attach my Telegram channel, where I forward the videos and analysis from TradingView and YouTube in case you want to get notified. So let's do it. For those who already know, we always start from the higher time frames, weekly and daily, which we consider our rejection time frames, to know where we stand in the market. Are we overall bullish, bearish, or stuck inside the range? And then we'll be zooming into lower time frames to look for setups around these rejection areas. We've got three types of rejections: a support and resistance, where we have many failed attempts to break above or below a certain area or level; a non-horizontal supply and resistance, which is basically the same as the horizontal one, but this time it's non-horizontal, which is also known as trend line. So a trend which is engulfed by a line. And last but not least, we have a supply and demand zones. When we have an aggressive movement upward from a certain area, we've got a demand zone, and as price approaches it again, we'll be looking for buy setups. Vice versa, we've got a supply zone when we have an aggressive movement down from it, and as price approaches it again, we'll be looking for sell setups. So let's start by identifying our support and resistance, then trend lines, and last but not least, supply and demand. The way to do it is very simple. You draw a random line on your chart and drag and drop it in a way to connect as many swings as possible. Of course, we start from the top, and I'll keep this one anyway because it's the all-time high and it's the round number 30, right? Like around 30, like 28, 29. Now, if you go down, let me make it in green. Okay, like the screen is not this visible. Here we go. So if you go lower, we can only connect one swing here. We can connect like multiple ones here, but we can see it better from lower time frames. So it might be just a major swing high on H4 on daily, but that's not a support and resistance. If you go lower, we can connect here 1, 2, and 3. So this one is a good one around round number 20. Or like 1920. Of course, it's always an entire zone and not a laser level, but we draw it as a level to keep the chart as clean as possible. Now you can see a very obvious one around this area, which is around 15, 16. So we've got this round number 15, 20, 30, and we've also got one around here, which is 25, but that's not as strong as these ones. If we go a little bit lower, we can see that we got one here, we got one here, but like, you know what, I'll not draw it because like we are not going to focus on the current price action. But anyway, here we go. Here's our 10, which happens to be also a round number, a support, then broken downward, a resistance, broken upward, support again, and support here as well. So that's it for our like support and resistance. Now let's go for non-horizontal supply and resistance, or trend lines. So we know that we are overall bullish, right? So we don't need any indicators or moving averages or whatever you are using to identify that we are bullish. You can clearly see it, right? And like if you can go for a line chart, you can see that we are bullish. Anyway, you can see it from the candlestick, like from the candlesticks, we are bullish, right? So we want to find like a channel in this case, which engulfs this overall movement upward, which we call the upper bound and the lower bound. So we start by drawing the lower bound because we are bullish. Sorry. So we start by connecting the lows, and we can see that we can clearly draw this one by connecting this swing, rejection from it again and again. And now as price approaches it again, we'll be looking for buy setups. Of course, as usual, I always check if we can make an offset for it, which would consider the upper bound. So we simply drag and drop it, and this is it. As you can see, the upper bound or the upper trend line is lining perfectly with these swings. If not, we'll of course we'll adjust it, because it's just for overall direction and it's not going to be used as a trigger. So we are bullish. Look at how many info we gathered just from weekly time frame. We are bullish, approaching the lower bound around the 20 support and resistance area, which is also a round number. So we are, as long as we are trading inside this channel, we will be bullish and we'll be looking for these impulse movements pushing price higher. Of course, Sorry, again, unless we have this big downward, then a bearish or a shift in momentum from bullish to bearish would be expected. But let's take it step by step. For now, bullish, looking for buy setups. Next, let's go for supply and demand zones. We've got one here, but it's like very far from now. We've got a supply zone here, which is also this horizontal supply and resistance from the lower time frames. So let's zoom in and like refine it. Let me make them appear on daily so that we can see it. I always want to see my drawings from a higher time frame on a lower time frame. So if I draw like something on weekly, I want to see it on lower time frames on daily H4, but I don't want to see it on monthly. If I draw anything on H4, I want to see it on H1 and 30, but I don't want to see it on daily and weekly. Okay, like that's how I do it. Anyway, it depends on you on how you'd like to manage your drawings. So we are bullish, looking for buy setups. Now, if we zoom into daily time frame, we can see that the price is approaching a support. Let's wait for it. My connection seems to be a bit slow, so hope you can hear me well. So we are bullish. Now price is approaching this little area here where we'll be looking for buy setups, and we can clearly see that we are currently stuck inside this range, right? So we were bearish previously, a big impulse breaking below the low. We were bullish, then price broke below the low after this consolidation. Now we are bearish. Correction, I classically tested the previous low broken downward, another impulse movement lower, and starting from here, we are stuck inside the range. We previously had this inverse head and shoulders pattern, which I posted on TradingView, and price like broke it upward here, and we are currently in this retest. So we are looking for buy stops because we have a head and shoulders broken upward, we've got this lower trend line, we are overall bullish, and so on. Let's focus on the current price action now, which is this area. First, as mentioned from weekly time frame, we know that we are currently stuck inside this consolidation, just like this one here. All right, as you can see, bullish consolidation dropped lower, consolidation again dropped higher, traded higher. And if you go back to weekly time frame again, we can really compare these ones, this consolidation with this one here. Formed like a head and shoulders pattern and broke its neckline upward, which happens to be the 15. Then we had a classic retest and traded higher. The same exact thing. Now we traded higher, dropped lower to around the lower band. Again, consolidation in the shape of a head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders pattern. Here we go. Now it's forming. So we've got our head, left shoulder, right shoulder, head, left shoulder, and maybe the right shoulder would be formed. Now, that's why this is also a confirmation that this is a good area to look for buy setups. So if you zoom back to daily time frame, again, you can see that we've got a support and resistance here acting as a resistance now. Let me draw it in blue because we've got green down there. And I make an offset for it. We can clearly see that we've got also a support and resistance around this area. Multiple rejections from it, a support again and again, a resistance again and again. So from daily time frame, what we know so far, we're stuck inside this consolidation. This is our upper band and lower band. From weekly, this is our lower band, which is the lower like trend line, non-horizontal support. So this area is the intersection of a horizontal support from daily and a non-horizontal support from weekly. And it's also a minor demand area as we had an aggressive movement upward from it. That's previously a supply, aggressive movement downward, and price rejected it and traded lower. That's a demand, and price rejected it and traded higher. Okay, so that's basically it. As price approaches this area, we'll be looking for buy setups, but we will be looking for buy setups. So we zoom into lower time frames and so on. But from a long-term perspective, if we break below it, then a movement low would be expected. If we break above it, then this impulse movement would be expected, which we are looking for as per our analysis. Because we're around a support area inside a correction phase, waiting for the bulls to take over to catch the next impulse movement upward. But this is from a long-term perspective. Meanwhile, if you follow the latest price action, we can draw this channel here. Let me make it in red, and that's it. And I posted this one on TradingView today, right? So we've got this channel forming. So from a long-term perspective, for the bulls to take over, we need to see this. We need to see a break above this area, okay? And since we've got this upper bound here from daily time frame, which we saw, we will also need to see this break here. Okay, and we've got this area here. So this is an entire rejection area, but from a medium-term perspective, this is for the bulls to take over. Now, since we are around approaching the lower bound, we'll be looking for buy setups on lower time frames. So as price retested, we'll be looking here, we'll be zooming into lower time frames, and that's it. You can zoom as much as you want. It depends on your trading style and so on. So this is it. As price approaches it, just like we did previously here, if you zoom into lower time frames, from the double bottom or 1-3 pattern, broke it upward and the bullish trend started, then price rejected the upper bound, formed also a similar pattern just like this one, broke it downward, and the bearish movement started. So now we're expecting the exact same thing. If you follow the same logic, now price is respecting this trend line here. So we are overall bearish. Anyway, starting from here, we are overall bearish from a short-term perspective. But since we are approaching this support area, let me make the one from daily appear on lower time frames. This is it. Here we go, right? So as price approaches this area, we'll be looking for buy setups, we'll be buying, like we'll be looking for extra confirmation to enter our buy. This is, for example, a possible scenario which I'll be waiting for. Meanwhile, until the buy is activated on lower time frames, we can still dive in and trade lower and lower inside the support area before we trade higher. That's the power of waiting for extra confirmation. And once we have this break, of course, like price can still invalidate the setup immediately, but this is what I'm be looking for. And from a long-term perspective, we'll be waiting for this to happen. Medium term, the bulls will take over, and then for this level, which we saw from daily, many rejections from it, then the bulls will take over from a long-term perspective, and we expect this big impulse that we saw from weekly time frame. So that's it for KCS. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this style, you feel free to watch the previous episodes. We've got 37 episodes. Make sure to like this video to help this video reach as many traders as possible. And I'll see you in the next episode, episode 40.